If you're spending a lot of time on writing and creating a resume, then it can be incredibly frustrating if it lands on an employer's desk and they ignore it. But this can sometimes happen. Time constraints, recruitment constraints, and the sheer volume of applications that employers receive can lead to some employers only skim reading your resume or maybe even ignoring it altogether. So how can you avoid that? You obviously want to make sure during your job search that your resume and your document is completely read and that an employer understands your overall career offering. So here are 3 ways that you can make sure your resume does get read in its entirety. The first one is to really concentrate on making it concise. Now, you've probably heard this a lot before, but it is terribly true when it comes to applying for jobs. Employers don't have a lot of time to read through resumes. So if you're sending yours out and it's pages and pages long, then an employer is probably going to skim read through that resume and probably won't get the key information that you want them to. So when you are writing it, just ensure that you try and keep your content down to 2 pages or less, preferably 1 page if you can. And just concentrate on cutting out any information that you feel is not relevant. Because after all, a resume really acts as a teaser. It's supposed to show an employer what you could bring to their company, but it's not supposed to show them everything. That's what a job interview is for. So just make sure you're getting in the key information and keep it nice and concise. Secondly, you really want to focus on keeping it relevant. If you want to interest the employer and keep them engrossed when reading your resume, you've got to make sure the content that is in there is relevant to the job role and the industry. Because if an employer is reading a resume and it's got nothing to do with their company or the job role they're advertising for, then they're probably quickly going to switch off and move on to the next resume. So how you do this is simply read through the job description and visit the company website. Make sure you do your research before you send that employer your resume and cover letter. Pick out the key responsibilities of the job role and what you're going to be required to do if you were to get the job, and think about the key skills the employer is looking for. What do they need in a candidate to succeed in this role? Then look through your own work experience, your own career achievements and your own hobbies, and try and pinpoint what you feel is relevant to the job role, including your experience, any achievements that you feel the employer should know about, and anything at all that you think will show why you're the right candidate for the role. And that's going to make it much more interesting for an employer to read. And lastly, what you need to think about is trying to keep your resume interesting, because after all, that's what's going to make an employer want to read the entire document. If it's boring, they're going to switch off quite quickly. So how to make it interesting is, again, to really look at what they're looking for in a job role and include the relevant content, and think about some exciting things you've done within your career as well and consider including them. A resume doesn't just have to be all about your work experience in qualifications and key skills. You can get a bit of personality in there by showing some achievements, whether that's in the workplace, or it could be a personal achievement that you're really proud of, like running a marathon for a charity or travelling abroad for a charity and doing some volunteering work. And also think about the hobbies section as well. A lot of candidates neglect this section, but the hobbies can really give an employer an insight into you as a candidate and your personality. And if they share a similar hobby or interest, then it can really create a talking point during a job interview too. So hopefully you should be able to follow these 3 tips and improve your chances of your resume being read, and hopefully improve your job interview chances too.